Good morning. So it's Friday morning, a couple of days after our last Wednesday night class, and I promised to do further videos showing progression towards completion. So before I get started painting, I wanted to point out uh, the differences between the image that I'm painting and the second image that I sent of this still life arrangement. Some of you have chosen to use the second image uh, as your inspiration, and um, I can see that some of my instruction on that image, on the image that I'm painting, may conflict with the image that you're looking at. For example, here is the second image. And I know I've been harping on the last couple of lessons about how this line is not straight but angled, but I can clearly see that in this second image that line is straight. So I apologize for not cluing into this earlier and why some of you were going like this. Some of you are using both images, which is a pretty smart thing to do. Um, However, I can't paint two different images at the same time. Excuse me. So I'm going to stick to my original uh, demonstration on the first image, and hopefully you can adapt, you know, to the variations in um, in each image. And I wanted to point out some of the very most um, um, important differences. The angle of the viewer in this particular image is higher than the angle of the viewer in the first image. In other words, if you think of this sitting in a room, in this from in this shot, I'm standing up looking down at the table, and in the first image, I'm probably sitting in a chair and looking straight on at the image. So I see less of the tabletop, less of all of this. Now that creates a second challenge in this particular image, which is this broad expanse of the white tablecloth. And also it is folded in such a way here that it hides the whole bottom of this can. And I think that makes it very challenging compositionally to make that all work in an interesting way. So if I don't know if I can zoom in on this, but how can I say? See, there's a highlight there, and then it folds down, and then it lays flat on the table for a while, and then it folds down over the edge. But this area right in here is vertical. You just want to keep that in mind so it rises up, so it'll be shaded. It'll be vertical just as this edge is more or less vertical. And that line is indeed straight, the dark line, and the highlight is more um, pyramidical. Is a good word. Anyhow, so I just wanted to point that out that I was probably confusing some of you. I use the word confusing probably euphemistically, but um, you know, some of the other obvious differences is the um, placement of the orange in the egg here, and of course these leaves here, the way they, you know, spread out over the vine. It's very different from what I'm painting. You don't see all of this, and it doesn't entangle with that. So um, I'm going to try to be conscious of that as I go forward, and I wanted to just start with that disclaimer, as it were. So I'll continue now with starting out with the background, and I'm interested in getting my background painted. What's the word I'm looking for? I have like these very thin areas in here, like little sanding bubbles or something there. I might want to sand that in there a little bit. And basically I want to go over and get this background looking like I painted it intentionally and not just tentatively, which is, of course, what blocking in is tentative painting. But now it's time to go from tentative to positive or definitive. So I'm going to use my, let's see, what can we see here? I'm using the Z4 3R number 10, the big brush. And I've got glazing, medium, in this shallower tray, and slow dry, medium, in this taller tray. I mixed up a little bit more of the background color. I made it into two shades. One goes more neutral with more of the raw umber in it, and then the other one has more, it has a more bluish tone. And so that being said, I'm going to use those colors and start painting. And I'm going to try to paint and not talk so much. And I'll leave it like that, okay? So I'm dipping into the glazing, and I'm going to grab some of that blue, that dark blue mix I have. And I'm going to start in here because this seems to be the area where it's the thinnest. Now I'm looking for a nice velvety sort of atmosphere, a background that feels like air, just space, dark space. I'm not trying to paint a wall, I'm trying to paint the darkness. Maybe I've been listening to too much Leonard Cohen, but that's what I wanted in this one here. Now, I don't know if you can see it on the screen or not, but already this new layer is adding a level of opaqueness that I want. Looks like I picked up a little bit of white in my brush there. There's some white next to the dark color. So I'll brush that in. I kind of want that white down around here anyway, so I'll just use that, but I'll be more careful going forward. Actually, I need to grab a little bit of that white, okay? Here I am talking my head off. Again, keep attacking that bottles, the edges of the bottle. Trying to get that transition from the bottle to the atmosphere just a place where it resonates with me. No particular formula there. It's intuition. It's what I feel. You know, it's what you feel when you do it. When you find um, that that particular passage in the painting appeals to you. If it appeals to you, then you know you're on the right track. Now I remember I said I wanted this edge to be somewhat softened. So this is how I'm softening it. Okay? Yeah. Now I'm going to continue on with this. Grab some more paint, some of that mixed paint, add a little more glazing, and I'm going to continue where I left off. Now I have been looking at this tin can, this silver can, and I'm seeing that my drawing is off a little bit, even still. And I'm not sure. I think I don't think it's off so much as perhaps. Well, it's off somewhat. Like this highlight here, for me that's way too strong, and that might be pulling my eye over. Now when I blend over it, I see how this shape is not symmetrical to that shape. So I want to make sure I get that edge defined better. And then I think the ball that sits on top here is just a little bit off center. I'm just going to go in and sort of paint some of that darkness around it again. Yeah, and what I'll do is I'll grab my smaller round, the Z43R number 2, looks like number 2, number 1, either or, whatever you have. And I'm going to grab some of that very light gray mix I made, and I'm going to just sort of try to mark where and that ball is highlighted right in there somewhere. See if I can get the shape of it. I'll have to set this brush down and use my mall stick here. So sometimes when things seem off to you, and you're just not able to get it right, there are age-old tricks that you may already know, but Captain Obvious, I'll point them out again. When you're not sure if everything is where it should be, a very good, useful trick, and this can be achieved in 2 ways, is you want to change the way you see your painting. Before I do that, I'm seeing some brush strokes in here that I don't want to dry. Yeah. Okay. Now, this is the trick. Turn it upside down. And then all of a sudden, you're looking at shapes instead of that idea you had in your head about what you were painting. It's a way to shake up your vision so that you're seeing it freshly again. Now, I think what I did here is good, but not quite there yet. You can even paint upside down. So that ball, even though I think I have it right in the center, it doesn't appear like it is. If this is my center line, see, if this is my center line, okay, well, I'm going to work on that. I want this to be I want it to be more streamlined than it is right now. I do love the crookedness that's inherent in um, this particular set of reflections on the bottle, but I don't have it quite the way I want it yet. So I'll add some darker layers in here with the glazing. Now I'm going to go back. I don't want that to dry on me. When I was wiping it before, I was cleaning the texture I had left when I stopped painting. Now, again, I'm going to keep carving away at that silver can. And in the meantime, I'm also thinking about so I'm thinking about the background right now. That's what I'm working on, getting a velvety sort of texture. Not like Elvis on velvet. Not that kind of velvety, but a sort of velvety. Again, I keep picking up white in my brush, and I'm gonna just sort of brush that out. Actually, I don't know. Maybe that works out well for me, because I do want. Remember how I said I wanted a sort of a halo? I don't want it to be that obvious though, but I want a halo that brings you back, takes you up. You travel along the top of those leaves, and then your eye lights on a sort of hint of a path that circles you back into the painting. Brings your eye right over to the bottle, and I might want to sort of have the lightest, very light. Again, this is so subtle. You know, this should not be obvious at all. This should be very, very subtle, understated. I can't overstate the importance of this being understated. There. Now there's a quote. That could be a catchphrase. Okay. So I'm going to keep working, but I'm going to clean my brush out because I picked up too much white. Okay, so I've rinsed my brush out, dry it out on my pad here. I'm going to dip it back into the glazing, and I'm going to pick up some more of that dark blue, and I'm moving over to this area here. Now I know it looks kind of light, like I've got more white in it. And that may be the case, but sometimes it's just that the fact that I've got a little bit of water mixed in with the glazing medium, and that gives it a sort of hazy, whitish, cloudy appearance until it dries. But I'm not sure what's going on here, but I'm gonna go with it. Now I want to keep it velvety, so that means I don't have any strong strokes going, say, horizontally. Don't want that. Draw a circle and red line to that. But I want almost like cross hatching. Okay, almost like cross hatching. And I keep working it until it starts to set up. Now, I'm going to dry my brush out a little bit by, um, by wiping it on the cloth there. Now, you, your, your, your brain starts to see, um, uh, how can I say, directional flow. You know, Van Gogh did these exaggerated backgrounds, or he painted fields, painted the stars in the sky, and you saw these exaggerated flows of energy. So if you think of that, okay, just keep that approach that he had, and then just take it down about 1,000, whatever it is, 1,000 notches, so that it becomes very subtle, very soft. This is, I think, still lifes. I shouldn't say that, because some still lifes are very harsh, and very hard edged, and they feel cold. I don't want this to feel cold. I want this to feel um, not warm, but what's the word I'm looking for? Cozy, mysterious, but but not but not fatal, near fatal. What is mystery? So your brain can go off in all directions you know whatever you're thinking about today, and that's okay. I think the reason I bring it up is um, you need to have some sort of internal guidance apparatus that takes you through the aesthetic of the background. So, you can make it any way you want, but make it consistent. Make it a consistent, true statement. Don't have don't have strokes that don't help out the painting. Or at least don't let them show. When I put a lot of layers and a lot of strokes into painting, and all those first ones, well, those are all forgotten by the time we get to this point. But in my head, I'm thinking it's all part. They're in there. I didn't get to where I am at this stage of the painting without first doing those stages. So you can't have, the finished product without the beginning steps. Okay, so now down the bottom here, I have a lot of that business going on, and I want to go after that. So again, I'm going to pick up some of that bluer. I'm going to pick up more of the uh, neutral, more neutraler. How I said I made two shades of the dark color. One was more neutral, which had more umber in it, and one had more blue in it. So the cast of blue was, more prevalent. So I'm using the one that has I'm using that shade that has more umber in it, because I want the bottom to, oh, to not compete. It's just support, and it's a place for the eye to rest. So I don't want strong brush strokes in there. I'm leaving the legs out. I've considered putting them in, and I've decided not to. I like the floatingness that not having them there lends to the painting. You might even say, and this thought just occurred to me, I don't know if it's based in a real motivation, but it's almost a homage to Georgia O'Keeffe. God damn it, it seems like I'm picking up white paint all the time, and I really don't want that. It's almost like a homage to Georgia O'Keeffe, you know, who I don't know, she's always, her paintings are always, I think about them a lot. And the way she handled paint. This was back during the days of the New York school, you know, when the avant-garde was just, abstract art was everything. It was just, well, she was just in front of that, you know, just in front of that, historically speaking, timeline speaking. But, I don't know. I'm just impressed, fascinated by some of the paintings that she's done. So now I've got this white paint down here that I don't want. I'm just going to work it out. Who knows? Like I say, sometimes you just don't know. Not that I would want to endanger the painting. Now, I think I want to I don't know, maybe not. Well, you know how I said we have a halo, that very slight halo going around here, bringing us down to the bottle. Then that should help our eye travel to that egg. We need to work on this folded area of the tablecloth, give it more information, make it work with all of this, and becomes a secondary center of interest. We move from there, and then that progression where the orange is taller and bigger than the egg, and that brings it right up to the can. And the can, of course, is the center of interest, and that highlight, that takes you way up there. So that just brings you way up there. That's why I want it softened at the top a little bit, and because I want you to come back down and look at these, the way these guys are hanging out on the tablecloth. I want to make that interesting. And that's why my angle, this image, I like this image because I'm looking more straight on. And so I'm going to have a highlight here, but I'm going to have that contrasted shaded area where the vertical part is. Okay. Well, I talk a lot, don't I? God. All right. I can see that bottom there dried a lot darker than what I had it at. Again, I'm dabbing here just to get layers of semi-transparent color. Ah, God. I'm going to take, well, let's see. I might want to have a little bit of lightness right in there. In other words, a little bit of light sort of creeping up from that corner. Again, ever so subtle. It shouldn't even be noticeable, like you shouldn't be aware of it. just subconsciously, it points the eye back up in that direction. All right. You know, I can't see this in the photograph, this very pointy, you know, the lower edge of this tablecloth in the photograph is cut off. I should show you guys this tablecloth at some point. Take it out and show you so you can have a better sense of it. But well, so let's think about the background up here. See the difference? I'm going to add more layers in there eventually. But now I want to I want to continue on with that background color and get more information in down here. So I really like the interaction of this dark color with the edges of the leaves and then the white tablecloth and then the round objects. Just pretty fascinated by that. And I think each of you, in your own way, have painted your interest in that as well. I wanted to get these vines on the lines of the vines are mostly divine. The lines on the vine can be carved out a little bit better here and keep a little bit of that shading right there so that they sort of fade in. And one of the things that I also picked up on in the image is that the vine itself is not completely in light. It parts of it catch the light and parts of it catch the shadow. So I don't want to have a solid, like light green line running the whole way. I want to break it up a little bit. But you got to break it up in a way, again, so subtle, so, you know, light touch. Break it up in a way that it your eye continues the line, doesn't halt, doesn't stop when you go into shade. So let me see if I can just sort of demonstrate that. Right over here, okay? And then maybe right in here. It's a little bit softer. So my line's still there. But it's not as distinct. Yeah. I'm interested in bringing this shadowy and shaded area into an interesting space, you know, highlighting it. I know I've got that vase behind there, but to me that vase is not a primary piece of information. It has to be a second, well, not even secondary, less than secondary, third. It's like on the third order of importance. I want the viewer to be able to discover it and say, look at it and say, what is that shape? And then figure it out through the active, you know, to the active act of seeing, looking, and analyzing. But it should be like a little surprise. Oh, that's what's going on with those light and dark and the blues there. So there's a change from the tablecloth over to that vase. But right now I need to get my darks in. And again, I want to maintain that velvety texture in the background so that it is another place for the eye to rest. Give the eye respite so that the whole painting isn't, every square inch isn't competing for attention. It's not all going, look at me, look at me. A very substantial portion of the painting is just quiet. Just quiet. But rich. So rich in its quietness. Now, I'm sort of composing here, where I'm deviating from the image of the photograph in my orchestration of these shapes off here in the distance. I want these shapes to be not quite in focus, almost in focus, but not quite. Now I want to get that hard edge. Now if you have a hard time making this edge hard, by hard I mean, hard edges, the edges are hard, not soft and fuzzy. If you have a hard time with that, take a ruler and draw a pencil line, top and the bottom, and then just paint in the lines, okay? That's a way to do it. Sometimes I do that sometimes, and then sometimes I prefer just to attack it freehand and let the the frailty of my hand, whether it's shaky or it wobbles a little bit, let that be part of my statement. Now, if it doesn't seem like that's, what you're interested in, then, then go after it the way that best appeals to you, Do it freehand, do it all shaky-loosey, do it freehand and be very, very, very careful and precise. Or do it somewhat mechanically and use pencil lines to guide you. I don't get too hung up on the notion of, oh, if you're doing a painting, it has to all be paint, can't use pencils, you can't use inks, or you can't use chalk or whatever. I don't worry about that too much. I just don't get hung up on it. It's some people, it's just very important, but it's not that important to me. If you need to use a pencil to get yourself an edge, go ahead, do it. That's what I say. So I know Rick was asking about how to get the color in the egg. So I'll talk about that sooner. I'm mixing up some raw umber and some white right now. I'm actually trying to go for that red in the table's edge there, which I see right in here. Now let's see what happens if I can do this freehand. So I'm laying it in. See, I got that line in there now. Now I'm going to take my smaller brush, which hopefully is clean. Yep, it is. And I'm going to blend using the slow dry. I'm going to dip it into slow dry. And so I got a little bit of slow dry, a little bit of water. Watch me do that blend. Watch me do that blending thing. And hopefully this illustrates. I'm going to dip my big brush into the water for now, and I'll go back and clean it out in a second. Now in this table top, it's reflective. And so you're going to see some of the colors of whatever object is above it reflected. That's why I'm sticking some of this reddish brown ever so lightly into that. And I'm also trying to find my edge here. Now I want to blend that some more, but I'm realizing that I just don't have the right color mix. I'm going to add burnt umber instead of raw umber. Some cad red, burnt umber. I have any left hanging? Looks like that's dried up. So I'm going to just take a quick second to add some more burnt umber. So the burnt umber has that more of a reddish tone to it, right? Now it looks like burnt sienna. Okay. Let's see. There's the burnt umber. Burnt sienna is nice too. Maybe it is what I want. That might be the right red, but I still want to put some burnt umber onto my palette. Okay. Okay. Now I'm going to dip into the slow dry. I'm going to grab some of that burnt sienna, which I put on there by accident. Maybe add a little bit of raw sienna to it. Maybe a little bit of burnt umber. I just want to get a nice reddish dark tone. Chestnut. That makes sense? Chestnut. There we go. Now I want that to be the second color that you see. The second color that you see in that bar of color, that band of color that moves across the surface of the painting. So I wanted to pick up some of that up some of that red right here. Not too much of it though. Let's try to get some nice soft blending going on there. So I've got cadmium red and raw umber mixed into this little glaze that I'm putting in. I'm trying to soften up that cadmium red and white line I had. Bring out the warmth of the wood in it. Rich Corinthian leather. I want that to fade off into the background. And then it comes, you know, it reappears again right over on this side. Now, I don't see much of that red color, just a little bit right there. I don't know why it would be there anyways. Now over here, I got more. I got whites, and I've got these warm wood tones mixed in with some of the dark blue tones. And those are the tones that we're going to have in that tablecloth. But now, I need to go into the tablecloth now. Oh, first, let me go back to my brushes and clean the brushes out before they turn into statues of brushes. Okay, good. All right. And I want to put that aside. I'm going to dip my brush in some of the glazing because I want this to dry fast, and then I'm going to dip it into some of that dark blue, the neutral one, the one with the umber, more umber than blue. And I'm going to use that to carve out the edge of this tablecloth more precisely this time, which by doing that will allow me to then go in and work on the tablecloth. So I want to make sure I'm in the right spot, yeah. There's some black lines in there. Tablecloth comes down like this. Comes all the way down to here. Wait, I've got to get that. Right here. This is wrong here. This, in my image, does this. Does that. Maybe I'll, rather than take away from here so much. Yep. Okay. Then I want to follow that. It goes like that. And it goes like that, and then it goes like this. And then it kind of curves back down like that. And then it does another loop like that. And a smaller one, and then I'm here. And that kind of dances around like that. All right, so, and you know, it's good to have that dark color underneath, or you know, at the edge of the tablecloth, because the tablecloth is casting that shadow over the very shiny, reflective light. Now back here, as I recede towards the edge of the canvas, the tablecloth uh, uh, the edge of the tablecloth is stretches further and further away from the edge of the tabletop. And see, that's indicated by that diagonal line. And then it does a little now I'm thinking that maybe I want to come down a little bit lower with that. So, yeah. All right. Then it does a little, I don't know, there's a little fold right there. So you can make that fold a compositional tool for bringing the eye back, helping to guide the eye back into the painting just by having that slightly crest towards the center of the painting, like that. It's a little subtle, pushes the eye back to the center of the painting. I want some of that darkness on the hair as well. All right. Now, I'm going to go back to my shadows here with some of that mixture of the dark color, the background color, and softened up with glazing. Mm. Boy, it's cold out there today. It's cold in my studio today. Remember this reflection here. It's the silver can is so highly reflective that you're going to pick up the hues of the surrounding objects. So let me see if I'm going to tackle that business up here again because I'm a glutton for punishment. I might get it right this time. I guess what I'm looking for a nice representation. By nice, I guess what it means is I feel the surface of the silver can. You know, it feels like metal. It's got to feel that way to you when you look at it. When you see it, you've got to feel it. And I'm not quite there yet. See, now that might do it. Now, see how I've changed the placement of that. Now I want to grab this highlight over here. Oh, I'm going a little bit wider than I wanted to, but that's all right. And I've got that sort of silver color on it for now, but that's going to get added to. See how cold it looks now when you just use the straight white. But I'm only doing that to get to a light point where I can then add a glaze of a warmer color on top. And like I'll put a warmer color here, there'll be a warmer color in here, there'll be one down here. But let me get that white in first. Okay. No. Oh. Mm. Mm-hmm. I'm going to run with that medium gray that we made. I'm going to run for the tablecloth. I'm going to run just a very, 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 very not the light line. Still using that small brush, the number 2 or number 1. I know I switched brushes at some point because it was the original one was getting worn out, and I might have gone up to a number 2. But this is the number 2 that I'm using right now. That's all. I just want to explore some of those sort of, I want to say, undulating reflections that the can can do. That the can do. Now I'm ready to go back with just a hint of red, hint of cadmium red. And I'm going to go over that line on the spout. And it looks like I need to make a little drawing correction here too. I'm not sure what. Okay, I think I know what I need to do. Let me see. So this is a very transparent glaze of cadmium red. And I'm sort of just going over. Then I want to run some of that glaze again here. I don't know if it's the same in the image number 2, but I'm just sort of seeing that red line kind of come down here. And then by just sort of maybe overdoing it down here a little bit, helps to bring the base closer to me. And then that recedes up there. Okay, now I need a little bit more of that glaze up here, and I need to do it some correction. So I want to add some of that red to that tip. Again, it's just a glaze, but I'm looking at this and I'm seeing well, I'm trying to find. Now I know that the edge of that spout, I think this is what's throwing me off here, is behind that orange. and that the orange overlaps it to about 3/4 of the way up. So right about there. So I know that the spout runs down like that. But okay, I'm also seeing that my spout isn't, my drawing is off here, it looks like. The spout should be a little bit higher than the cap, the bottom of the cap. There's a little bit of red in there too. Yeah, so I'm going to extend that out a little bit like that. I want to make sure I have a nice, there's a nice, nice arc in here, but the apex of this arc is below that support strut. So it comes down like that. I'm using red, but I'll be painting over those reds, but yeah, it's stop with that. That's my Christopher Walken invitation. We're going to start with that. All right, let's see. Let me see some of this in here too. You know, the beautiful thing about reflective surfaces is the many different ways you can go with it. Now I'm going to make sure I add some of that red glazing over that highlight I put over here. See how that just softens the harshness of that gray that I had on there before. But some of it comes through, and that's the whole point of putting that down first like that. All right. So I'm waiting for this painting here to dry, so I can go back in and carve out some of the cloth. Let's look at the egg. What came first? Let me see. I'm going to clean my brush out. So I got a message that Rick was asking about the eggs, the color. And it's so simple, it's complicated. Let me see if I can't sort of express it in a clear way. What I'm going to do, I guess, I'll put the camera down here, and I want to get some raw umber. I'm using raw umber. White. Oh, you can use raw sienna, a little bit of cadmium. There is a reddish glow, at least in my vision. I see a little bit of a reddish glow in those eggs. But, and I'll show you where I see it. So I've got the burnt umber here. Why don't I do this? I'll take that And I'll move that back. Great. I'll grab some white. I'll try to make up a nice batch. So mix the umber and the white really good first. And you come up with this, this sort of, when you're mixing it looks like crap. But once it's all mixed, you get this nice warm gray. Well, that's a nice place to start, but is that the right gray, I say to myself. Well, no, it's not, because there's more red in that. But, or yellow. So I think what I want to add, well, I'm going to grab a little bit of the red, a little bit of red here, and I'm going to mix that into it. Again, my approach is to find the mid-range, the mid-color, and then I can tint it to lighten it up. So I'm not even close to where I want to be. I'm missing yellow. So I'm going to pick up, I believe this is the yellow ochre. And I'm going to add a good size dab of it. If I recall, I was using the same color mix for the oranges and the eggs, and then just varying on that color theme. We've got to work on the oranges too, I know that. So let's do that. And where am I at for time? Well, I wanted to make this about 15 minutes longer, so let's see what we got. Yep, not even close. Let me see, let me just try something here. I'm going to grab some glazing on my little brush. I'm going to grab some of that paint. I'll go up here to the painting again. And I want to get the outline of that egg. Now I've got way too much paint. Way too much paint on my brush. Then don't paint like that, because it'll just cause you problems. Yeah, so we got a clean brush. I'll dry it out a little bit. Okay, now I can take the paint that's already on the canvas there and just move it around. Stretch it out along the edge. And I'm basically creating the edge of the egg is is a little bit lighter because of the shape of the egg, the contours of the egg. You see around the edge a little bit where the light starts to reflect on it again, like in the shadow area. Because of the roundness of the egg, I see light on the very edge of it. Then that's in shadow because it's actually sitting on the tablecloth and it's not getting any reflected light. So now I want to take that halo I made around the egg, inside the egg, not on the outside of the egg, but on the inside, and I want to blend it slowly, because I had the glazing compound, so it's still wet, but I have to work fast because it's going to dry fast, because it's the glazing compound. So I want to spread it out. So keep drying your brush out. Keep a rag handy. Dab your brush, dry it out, and then go back and keep stretching that light color till it's just ever so soft of a edge. Now, for the shadow side, I want to grab a little bit more burnt umber and add it to that gray I made. Is it burnt umber? No, it's raw umber. It's raw umber. And I'm going to go back in. Remember, the shape of the egg, it's oval. This is sort of, the point is sort of about right here, but the point's in shadow on that side. You know, again, it's not a point. Let me make that point. Let me make this point. I'd like to say this about that. Okay. When I get down to the bottom of the egg, I'm under, you know, the roundness of that egg is putting the bottom of the egg into shadow. So I want to represent that, indicate that, suggest it by adding more of the raw umber into that color. And then it meets the tablecloth right around there. And this fold in the tablecloth is in front of the bottom of the egg. So you don't see the actual bottom of the egg. But how do you paint that transition? Well, the as I say, the line gets narrower and narrower at the high point of the cloth. And it gets thicker, the shadow gets thicker as it recedes towards the back. And then there's an area of strong shadow right here at the very darkest, furthest away where the sun doesn't shine of that egg. That's where it's darkest, right there. I'm going to pull that up. Now you can think of this in planes, where you have that edge of the egg. You can make that a plane, and then a plane, you know, where it dunt, 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 dunt makes a transition around the egg. But, and so you sort of paint to that a little bit, but you also let your, you'll have to use the force too. Use the force. Just to feel it. So, now there's an almost peachiness in an egg. I'm going to pick up some of that orangey color I made, which is probably yellow ochre and cadmium red. I'm going to pick some of that up on that I have on the palette already, mix it with glazing, and start to bring some of that. Yeah. Yeah, just have fun with this. You know? But anyways, my approach is to be at this point now, I'm going very light. And I'm really searching for those opportunities that will allow me to represent the roundness of the egg in the simplest manner possible, but also the most convincing manner possible. So here, where the egg, the bottom of the egg starts to poke up beyond the shadow of the egg itself and the confines of the tablecloth, picks up a little light right there. And see how that can become what can I say, an interesting little piece of painting where you can use the white juxtaposed against that with this. Let me demonstrate what I'm saying, even though I'm not nearly done with the egg yet. But let me just demonstrate. So I'm going to pick up some of that medium gray that I had for the tablecloth, and I'm going to take it right up to the edge of the egg there, like that. And that's my timer telling me it's time to stop painting, but I'll go for a few more minutes here. Okay. Again, I'm using that gray, and I'll go slightly darker than the medium gray over here, and I want to use that. Remember, I have a shadow that's running on the tablecloth being cast by the egg, and that shadow runs right underneath the orange, sort of. Okay, I'm going to go a little bit lighter here now. Okay. Now, I'm going to pick up the lightest tone of that tablecloth and just hit it a little bit right there. And then I've got to go back in with the darker color and find that little transition of it's a triangular shape. It's broader at the base. Kind of like that, okay? Goes a little bit something like this. A 1, a 2, a 3. All right. Now time for me to analyze what's going on here. I would say my egg is coming down So what I'm trying to indicate here is there's a fold that runs there, but then there's another fold that runs here. And the bottom of the egg is in between, rest in between those two folds. So the bottom of the egg will come down in front of that fold, but behind this fold. So I'm making an adjustment once again. This is how I do it. I keep fixing my mistakes until there are no more to fix. that might sound like a flippant way to say it, but it's kind of true. Now, it's not the only way to paint. I'm not saying that this is the way you should do it. I'm just saying this is the way I do it. I got that highlight now. I know I got a highlight up here because this is the top of the egg, the roundness of the egg. It's hitting the sun. It's not the sun, of course. It's some kind of LED overhead drawing lamp. But see how I can just add, a little bit of glazing in there, and on my brush and the tip of the brush, I'm just lightly dancing over the canvas, almost like dry brush or something. But it's not dry brush. Now I want to go back in, and I keep fixing my contours here. After all, how can you respect someone who doesn't fix their contours? I want to grab some of that brown I mixed up earlier, the umber and the white, and add a little bit more red to it. And I'm going to work that into here a little bit. I'm not quite there yet, though. Okay. And I need to get a little bit more red on the palette because the red I have is dried up. Oh yeah, that spout is screaming at me to fix it. Should be dry by now too. Okay, so I want to dab a little more of that red into that color here. Let me push the camera down on that. So I'm grabbing some of the cadmium red, mixing it into that sort of neutral brown I made for the egg. Okay, that's all. Okay, I'll go back. And also, the warmth of that, how the red warms that color up, also helps to make the eye think it's coming closer to you. All right, I want to blend that edge here that I just put on. I mean, the thing about blending is there's a danger in getting lost in the act of blending because I think it's kind of like a soothing activity for the human. It's like patting somebody's shoulder or something. You can just get into the motion and find it captivating, but so you have to be very judicious not to over blend. Don't blend out all those beautiful brush strokes that you made. See? So again, it's discovering where to stop, how far to go, and that's an individual decision for everybody, and that's some of the beauty of what painting is that expression of individual vision. So I'm trying to add some of that reddish cadmium red into this area here. All right, I'm going to clean my brush off there. And I'm going to grab some raw, I'm going after the burnt sienna and a little bit of the burnt umber. I'm going to mix some of that in my brush a little bit here. And then I'm going to mix that into some of that neutral brown egg color I made. And what I'm trying to do is come up with a nice warm, shadowy area. Too light still. Still too light there. So I'm going to grab more burnt sienna and burnt umber. And if it's too brown, I'll cut it back with raw umber. All right, so excuse me. Let's see. So you really need lots of patience. It's almost like you got to be a doctor, have lots of patience. I'm going to keep blending the this area in here until I just know, I got it. It's not looking good to me at all. I'm missing something up top. It's become somewhat flat. And that may be a result of the raw sienna, the burnt sienna and the burnt umber mixed together is so red that it kind of drowns out that cadmium red that I had up here. So now that I know that, I may want to gray this out some more. So, that's the process of balancing, looking at what you see, analyzing it. I want to achieve that, the feeling that the eggshell surface. I mean, they use eggshell as as a surface description. It's like somewhere in between matte and satin. Um, okay. Okay, so now a couple little steps I'm going to take. Take some cadmium red. Mix it with that neutral brownish thing I made. And I'm going to add it up in here. I'm going to put some of that, more of that red. That's too much. I don't regret that if I put that in there. All right. You know, some days this just comes to me. It's so easy. I don't even have to think about it. But today I'm overthinking it, and it's become a real issue. There's a tone in here that I want to get. I can help describe. I need to modulate it a little bit. So I'm going to add some of that dark color I had earlier and try to get somewhere in between. A little bit softer there. A little bit softer now. Now, well, that's a different looking egg, but I can't say I'm totally dissatisfied with it. Now I'm going to grab some of that, the lightest gray that I made for the tablecloth. Just refresh everybody, right? I made the grays. I made the lightest gray, the mid gray, and then the dark gray. And then we did a lot of mixing in between the dark gray and the mid gray. Right now I'm grabbing this gray, which is, you know, very, very light, but it's not bright white. What have I got? All right. And I'm going to find that highlight in the egg right here. Okay? See, now that alone, that don't look too bad to me. But I'm not satisfied with the cast of that top. So I want to lighten that up. I'm adding a little bit of cadmium red and a little bit of white. Let's see what that looks like. See, a little bit in there. I'll go back and blend it in. So I rinse out my brush, dry it out by blotting it on the paper, and then I'll go back in, grab the edges, and just soften them up a bit. And, you know, it's all looking a little too much on the red side. So now I'm going to grab some, I'm wondering if I'm using raw sienna. No, I'm going to grab yellow ochre and mix it into that little bit of cadmium red I had. I want an orangey sort of shade, tone, glaze, and not too strong, you know. But let me see what I get with that. There's a sort of glow happening here. Maybe the light from the orange is coming in there and over there. Yeah, that's what I wanted. Now, see, to me that's a nice happy arrangement of colors. And that shows up. And then I can take it over here as well. Now that I sort of worked it out on that egg, and just transfer that information. Now I really like that shadow there. The color of it. But let me just see if I can't get some of this. Oh. All right. Okay, now what I have to do now is I have to get it seated into that tablecloth where it should be. So we're going to, I'm going to shade it a little bit right here. I don't know what happened here. I got a little dark black mark. Yeah, is that a texture? I hope no, it's not. Okay. So remember this fold. Is behind the egg, and then this shadow. And then I have the lightest gray I have here. It kind of comes up to maybe about here, and then runs down like that. And then we can spill that. Continue it over here. Here I'm using just my imagination where I think the light falls, and I'm defining the contours. But I'm going to stop the video here, and I'll pick up on the tablecloth next time around. So we did background, looked at the eggs, we did the silver can a bit more. We carved out the leaves in the background. We can go back to those leaves again. Bottle looks pretty good. Silver can looks pretty good, not complete yet. I'm going to add, I won't do it on camera, but I'm just going to add another layer down here of the dark blue in the same manner that I was doing. Okay, thanks folks. Here I am. Thank you very much for being with me on this painting excursion. Have a nice weekend. Okay, talk to you soon.